You dare to laugh in the face of our declaration of war? The Zex-3-Axian ambassador's facial tentacles writhed in barely contained rage, their normally iridescent purple complexion darkening to an almost black shade of indigo. Admiral Sarah Chen couldn't help it. She snorted again, which only made the rest of the human delegation at the Galactic Council chamber break into fresh fits of barely suppressed giggles. She tried to compose herself, she really did, but every time she looked at the absolutely affronted expression on the ambassador's face, complete with those dramatically quivering tentacles, she lost it all over again. "I apologize, Your Excellency," she managed to get out between chuckles. "But you have to understand how this looks from our perspective." The ambassador's secondary eyestalks swiveled in confusion while the primary ones remained locked on her face in what was probably meant to be an intimidating glare. "Explain." Sarah glanced at her aide, who was desperately trying to maintain a straight face while tapping away at his datapad. "Jenkins, please pull up the relative military strength comparison." "Yes, ma'am." Jenkins's fingers flew across the holographic display, and a moment later, the chamber's central projection space lit up with a series of charts and figures. The Zex-3-Axian Empire currently maintains a fleet of approximately 2,000 warships, with their most advanced vessels being roughly equivalent to our Phase II destroyers from about 80 years ago. Their ground forces number approximately 10 million personnel, equipped with primarily kinetic and low-yield energy weapons. The ambassador's tentacles puffed up with pride. "Yes! Tremble before the might of our glorious military!" Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose, trying desperately not to start laughing again. "Jenkins, please continue with the human forces." "Of course. The United Earth Defense Force currently maintains an active fleet of 157,000 warships, with an additional 243,000 in reserve. Our ground forces number approximately 2.5 billion when including reserve personnel and colonial militia. This is not counting automated defense systems, orbital platforms, or our von Neumann constructor fleets." The ambassador's tentacles drooped slightly. But we have the element of surprise!" This time, Sarah couldn't hold back her laugh. "Your Excellency, we've known about your planned declaration of war for the past 6 months. Your encryption hasn't been updated since we first made contact 200 years ago. We've been reading your military communications like a children's storybook." "Impossible!" The ambassador turned to their military attaché, who was starting to look distinctly uncomfortable. "General Zekathor, you assured me our codes were unbreakable." The general's throat sacs pulsed nervously. "Well, Your Excellency, you see, we haven't actually had to fight a war in over 3,000 years. Our military budget has been, shall we say, redirected to more pressing matters." "Like that lovely new pleasure dome on Zexthrix Prime?" Sarah offered helpfully. "The one with the golden fountains and zero-gravity dance halls? I have to say the architecture is stunning. Our tourism board has been getting a lot of requests about it." The ambassador's complexion had shifted to a sickly shade of green. You know about that too?" "Oh, honey," Sarah said, her tone shifting to something almost maternal. "We know everything, including the fact that your entire war declaration is just a desperate attempt to distract your population from the fact that your government embezzled nearly 60% of last year's defense budget to fund various personal projects. Like that secret vacation estate on Rigel 7. Lovely choice of location, by the way. The sunsets there are gorgeous." The chamber had gone dead silent. Every alien representative was staring at the increasingly distressed Zex-3-Axian delegation, with expressions ranging from shock to barely concealed amusement. The ambassador's tentacles had completely deflated, hanging limply around their face like wet noodles. But, we are the mighty Zex-3-Axian Empire. We once ruled a quarter of the galaxy." "Yes, 3,000 years ago," Sarah agreed patiently. "Back when faster-than-light travel was considered cutting-edge technology and most species were still figuring out how to build stable fusion reactors. Times have changed, Your Excellency." Jenkins cleared his throat. "Ma'am, if I may. I've just received an update from Fleet Intelligence. It seems the Zex-3-Axian Ministry of War has been padding their military numbers. Their actual combat-ready fleet numbers closer to 500 ships, not 2,000. And most of those haven't had a proper maintenance cycle in over a decade." Sarah turned back to the ambassador with an expression of gentle concern. "Your Excellency, I'm going to make you an offer, and I strongly suggest you consider it carefully. You can either withdraw your declaration of war right now, and we'll pretend this whole embarrassing incident never happened, or, the ambassador's voice had risen to a squeaky whisper, or we can accept your declaration, In which case, I'm legally required to inform you that the Human Liberation Fleet will arrive in your home system in approximately... She checked her watch. 27 minutes. We launched them the moment we decoded your war declaration 6 months ago. They've just been waiting in hyperspace for the signal. The ambassador's eyes all widened in horror. 27 minutes? But that's impossible. Your ships can't be that fast. Sarah smiled. Oh, that's right. You wouldn't know about our new quantum slip drives, would you? We kept those classified. They're quite impressive. 0 relative time dilation, near instantaneous transit between any 2 points in known space. The papers our scientists published on the underlying principles just won this year's Galactic Science Prize. Though I suppose you missed that announcement, being busy with your war preparations and all. The general had begun slowly backing away from the ambassador. Your Excellency, perhaps we should consider the Admiral's generous offer. But what about our honor? The ambassador wailed. Our glorious heritage? Will still be intact if you choose the sensible option, Sarah said firmly. In fact, I'd be happy to have our diplomatic corps work with your government on a face-saving public statement. Something about a regrettable miscommunication and continuing our long tradition of peaceful cooperation. We can even throw in some technology sharing agreements to help modernize your civilian infrastructure. Lord knows your people could use it. The ambassador's tentacles twitched feebly. And if we refuse? Sarah's expression turned serious for the first time. Then, in 26 minutes, sorry, make that 25 now, approximately 10,000 human warships will appear in orbit around your homeworld. They will proceed to systematically disable every military installation, government facility, and piece of strategic infrastructure you possess. This will take them approximately 45 minutes, during which time our Marine Corps will deploy to secure your capital and major population centers. By dinner time, your entire empire will be under human administrative control, and will be forced to launch a full investigation into your government's corruption and misuse of public funds. She paused. I should mention that our definition of corruption includes that rather impressive collection of blackmail material you've been keeping in your private residence's secure vault, the one you think is unhackable. The ambassador made a sound like a deflating balloon. I should also mention, Sarah continued cheerfully, that all of this is being broadcast live across the galactic network. Your citizens are watching this right now. All of them. We made sure of that. The ambassador's head whipped around to stare at the active broadcast drone floating near the chamber's ceiling. Their tentacles went completely rigid. So, Sarah said, spreading her hands. What's it going to be? Option A, where we all walk away from this pretending it never happened, and your people get some nice infrastructure upgrades, or option B, where, well, you can probably imagine how that ends. For what it's worth, I'm really hoping you pick option A. The paperwork for option B is an absolute nightmare. The chamber remained silent for a long moment. Finally, the ambassador's shoulders slumped in defeat. We withdraw our declaration of war, they mumbled. I'm sorry, could you speak up? Sarah asked innocently. The broadcast drone might not have caught that. We withdraw our declaration of war! The ambassador practically screamed, their tentacles flailing in distress. Wonderful, Sarah beamed. I'm so glad we could resolve this diplomatically. Jenkins, please contact the fleet and tell them to stand down, and get our diplomatic team ready to draft that joint statement. Oh, and have someone from the Corps of Engineers contact the ZX3 Axion Infrastructure Ministry. Let's get started on those upgrades right away. As the chamber erupted into a buzz of conversation and the thoroughly defeated ZX3 Axion delegation was led away by their equally shell-shocked allies, Sarah felt a tug on her sleeve. Ma'am? Jenkins whispered. There was never actually a fleet in hyperspace, was there? Sarah winked at him. Of course there was, Jenkins. The fact that it was a training exercise practicing rapid deployment procedures that just happened to be taking place near ZX3 Axion space is purely coincidental. Jenkins grinned. And the quantum slip drives? Oh, those are absolutely real. They just don't work quite as well as I implied. Yet. She straightened her uniform. Now I believe we have some infrastructure projects to plan. Let's show them why it's better to have humanity as friends rather than enemies. Yes, ma'am. Jenkins paused. Do you think they'll ever try something like this again? Sarah glanced at the departing ambassador, whose tentacles were still drooping pathetically. Somehow I doubt it, but if they do, she smiled. Well, we can always use another training exercise. As they left the chamber, Sarah could have sworn she heard one of the other alien delegates mutter, "This is why you don't mess with humans. They'll either kill you with kindness or just kill you, and somehow the kindness is worse." She couldn't help but smile. Sometimes the best way to win a war was to make your enemy realize how absolutely ridiculous they were being. And if you could help them save face and improve their society in the process, well, that was just good diplomacy. Besides, she thought, those quantum slip drives would be working perfectly within the year. It was always good to stay ahead of the curve, just in case. You did what? Admiral Sarah Chen stared at the holographic projection of her cousin, Dr. Linda Chen, who was currently sporting the kind of manic grin that usually preceded either a scientific breakthrough or an interstellar incident. I may have, accidentally, hired the entire former Zex-3 War Council as consultants for our quantum slip drive project, Linda said, not looking remotely apologetic. Sarah pinched the bridge of her nose. Linda, those are the same people who tried to declare war on us 3 months ago. Exactly! Linda's grin widened. And now they're helping us perfect the very technology I used to bluff them into backing down. Isn't it beautifully ironic? Jenkins, who had been quietly updating reports at his desk, started choking on his coffee. Let me get this straight, Sarah said slowly. You hired the military leaders of a civilization that recently attempted to go to war with us, to help develop our most advanced propulsion technology. Well, when you put it like that, it sounds bad, Linda admitted. But hear me out. First of all, they're absolutely brilliant engineers. Did you know they actually developed theoretical plans for quantum slip technology back during their empire's golden age? They just never had the resources or political will to build it. And you don't see any potential security concerns here? Oh, please, Linda waved dismissively. We've got them under better surveillance than a teenager at their first house party. Besides, they're loving it here. General Zakthor especially. Turns out he's been sitting on some revolutionary theories about quantum field manipulation for decades. The poor guy nearly cried when I showed him our research facilities. Sarah leaned back in her chair, fighting the urge to laugh. So let me guess. They're all living in corporate housing, earning Earth-standard salaries, and probably wondering why they ever bothered maintaining that ridiculous military facade in the first place. Actually, Linda's eyes twinkled. General Zakthor just bought a house in the suburbs. His tentacles apparently make him amazing at gardening. He's already won 3 local competitions for his exotic flower arrangements. This time Sarah did laugh. Please tell me you're joking. Nope. He's hosting a neighborhood barbecue this weekend. Makes a mean quantum-grilled burger, apparently. Something about applying his theoretical physics knowledge to achieving the perfect char. You should come. Jenkins, who had finally recovered from his coughing fit, raised his hand tentatively. Ma'am, if I may. This actually aligns perfectly with the latest intelligence reports. Zex-3 public approval of Earth has skyrocketed since we started those infrastructure upgrades. They're calling it their second golden age. See? Linda beamed. Everyone wins. They get to do real science instead of maintaining a pretend military. We get their brilliant minds helping advance our technology, and General Zakthor gets to show off his prize-winning Rigelian roses. Sarah shook her head, smiling. Only humans would respond to a war declaration by hiring the enemy's military leaders as tech consultants and introducing them to suburban gardening. Oh, that reminds me, Linda snapped her fingers. The former ambassador, you remember, the one with the dramatic tentacles? They've become completely obsessed with Earth entertainment. Started a wildly popular video blog reviewing human comedy shows. Their analysis of classical slapstick humor is actually quite insightful. The ambassador is now an Earth media critic? With over 10 million subscribers, their breakdown of Charlie Chaplin's influence on modern comedy went viral in 3 sectors. Something about their tentacles adding extra emotional emphasis to their reviews. Jenkins was now openly grinning as he pulled up the relevant data. It's true, ma'am. The ambassador's channel, Tentacles and Takes, is the fastest-growing entertainment review platform in the quadrant. Their recent collaboration with Earth's History Channel on Greatest Military Blunders, A Personal Perspective, was particularly well received. Sarah buried her face in her hands, shoulders shaking with suppressed laughter. So let me summarize. In just 3 months, we've turned their military leaders into scientific consultants and suburban gardening enthusiasts, and their chief diplomat into a social media influencer. Don't forget the corruption investigation, Jenkins chimed in helpfully. The public live stream of the Evidence Vault opening got record viewership. I hear they're turning it into a documentary series. Speaking of which, Linda added, several of the exposed officials have already published tell-all memoirs. The one titled, How Not to Run an Empire, a Cautionary Tale, is topping the galactic bestseller lists. Sarah finally looked up, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. You know what the funniest part is? This is probably the most effective peacekeeping strategy we've ever implemented. It's hard to maintain hostile intentions when your military leadership is too busy winning gardening competitions and advancing science to plan any invasions. Exactly. Linda's expression turned slightly more serious. And the quantum slip drive project is actually progressing faster than expected. Turns out combining Earth's resources with Zechus-Thriaxian theoretical knowledge was exactly what we needed. General Zach Thor's insights about quantum field manipulation were revolutionary. We might have a working prototype within months instead of years. Just to be clear, Sarah said, we're building faster-than-light technology with the help of the same people who recently threatened to go to war with us? Well, technically they're building it with us, Linda corrected. They're full project partners now. It's amazing what people can accomplish when they stop pretending to be space warriors and embrace their inner science nerds. Jenkins cleared his throat. Ma'am, we're also seeing a significant uptick in Zechus-Thriaxian youth applying to Earth universities. Apparently the ambassador's viral video about why I wish I'd studied science instead of threatening war really struck a chord. Of course it did, Linda said proudly. Their tentacles got all wibbly when they talked about missed opportunities. Very emotionally compelling. Sarah leaned back in her chair, shaking her head in amazement. You know, when I threatened them with our supposedly perfect quantum slip drive technology, I never imagined they'd end up helping us actually make it perfect. That's the beauty of it, Linda exclaimed. They're not just helping with the technology. They're completely revolutionizing their own society in the process. Did you know they've started a Science Not War education initiative? General Zach Thor teaches advanced physics to school children between his gardening sessions. Between this and the infrastructure upgrades, Jenkins added, the Zechus-Thriaxian Empire is modernizing faster than any civilization in recorded history. Their corruption levels are at an all-time low, public satisfaction is at an all-time high, and their scientific output has increased by 3,000% in just 3 months. And all it took was calling their bluff and then offering them a better alternative, Sarah mused. Though I have to ask, Linda, are you absolutely sure about the security aspects? Linda's expression turned smug. Sarah, darling cousin of mine, do you really think I'd let them anywhere near sensitive technology without precautions? They're brilliant, but they're working on carefully segregated theoretical problems. Besides, her grin turned mischievous. It's hard to harbor hostile intentions when you're up to your tentacles in quantum mechanics and neighborhood bake sales. Neighborhood bake sales? Oh yes. General Zach Thor's quantum temperature-controlled soufflés are to die for. He's teaching a cooking class next week. Something about applying particle physics to perfect pastry rise times. Sarah burst out laughing again. You know what? This might be the most human solution to interstellar conflict ever. We didn't just beat them. We converted them into suburban scientists with hobbies. Better living through science and gardening. Linda agreed cheerfully. Now, are you coming to the barbecue or not? General Zach Thor is trying out a new quantum marinade technique, and the ambassador is filming a special episode about Earth grilling traditions. Sarah looked at Jenkins, who shrugged and smiled. It would be good for diplomatic relations, ma'am. Fine, Sarah sighed, still smiling. But if anyone asks, this is officially a military intelligence gathering operation. Of course, Linda winked. We're definitely not going just to try the quantum grilled burgers and see the award-winning garden. Speaking of which, wait until you see what the General did with the anti-gravity water feature. As Linda launched into an enthusiastic description of quantum-enhanced landscape design, Sarah couldn't help but marvel at how things had turned out. 3 months ago, they had faced the threat of war. Now they were attending barbecues hosted by their former enemies and collaborating on revolutionary scientific projects. It was, she reflected, a uniquely human approach to victory. Don't just defeat your enemies. Recruit them, rehabilitate them, and then invite them over for quantum-grilled burgers and shop talk about faster-than-light travel. Somewhere in the universe, she was sure, other civilizations were scratching their heads, or equivalent appendages, trying to figure out how humans had turned a war declaration into a scientific and cultural renaissance. But that was the thing about humans. Sometimes the best way to win wasn't through force or fear, but through coffee breaks, suburban gardens, and the irresistible allure of finally getting to do what you really loved, instead of what tradition demanded. And if that meant their former enemies were now their most enthusiastic allies, in pushing the boundaries of science while simultaneously revolutionizing intergalactic social media and suburban gardening. Well, that was just another day in humanity's continuing mission to make the galaxy a more interesting place. They want to what? Admiral Sarah Chen's voice hit a pitch she hadn't reached since her academy days. Jenkins, who had long since learned to come prepared for these meetings, silently slid a cup of chamomile tea across her desk. The Zex-3-Axian Public Science Coalition has formally requested to declare war on their own government, ma'am. Sarah took a long sip of tea. Jenkins, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we just spend the last 6 months preventing a war with them? Yes, ma'am, but this is different. Jenkins pulled up the holographic petition. They're calling it a war on scientific stagnation. Apparently, General Zekthor's gardening blog post about cultivating innovation like I cultivate my prize-winning Rigelian roses really struck a chord. A gardening blog post started a revolution? Sarah massaged her temples. Actually, never mind. Of course it did. This is the Zex-3-Axians we're talking about. Continue. Well, after the general's post went viral, a group of young scientists started a movement. They're demanding the complete dissolution of the traditional military budget in favor of research funding. Their slogan is, "Make science, not warships." That's actually pretty catchy. It gets better, Jenkins grinned. The former ambassador's latest video essay, From Warmonger to Wonderer, My Journey to Scientific Enlightenment, has been viewed by 97% of the Zex-3-Axian population. The comments section is full of military personnel requesting transfers to research positions. Sarah leaned back in her chair. So let me get this straight. The same civilization that tried to go to war with us 6 months ago is now having an internal revolution. Over research funding? Essentially, yes, though they prefer to call it a peaceful scientific uprising. They've been organizing protest marches where they wave signs with quantum physics equations and chant research proposal abstracts. Of course they do. Sarah couldn't help but smile. And I assume my cousin Linda is somehow involved in this? Jenkins coughed discreetly. Dr. Chen may have, accidentally, shared some of Earth's university funding models with her Zex-3-Axian colleagues. They were particularly impressed by the concept of tenure. "Linda!" Sarah called out, activating her holographic communicator. Her cousin's face appeared, sporting what could only be described as a shit-eating grin. "Before you say anything," Linda held up her hands. "I technically didn't violate any regulations. Sharing academic administrative procedures isn't classified." "You started a revolution!" "No, I simply explained how Earth's scientific institutions work. The Zex-3-Axians did the rest themselves." Linda's grin widened. Though I have to admit, I never expected them to take the phrase publish or perish quite so literally. Jenkins cleared his throat. The latest intelligence reports suggest they've started ranking their political leaders based on their H-index and citation counts. "Their what?" Sarah asked. "Measures of scientific publication impact," Linda explained cheerfully. "Several high-ranking officials have already stepped down in shame over their lack of peer-reviewed papers." "This is insane," Sarah muttered. "What happened to the aggressive military empire we faced half a year ago?" "Oh, they're still aggressive," Jenkins said. "They've just redirected that energy. Yesterday, 2 research institutes got into a very heated debate about proper laboratory protocol. It almost came to blows until someone suggested settling it with a double-blind, peer-reviewed study." Linda nodded sagely. "The scientific revolution is getting rather revolutionary. Did you hear about the protest at the Imperial Palace? 10,000 scientists showed up with detailed PowerPoint presentations about funding allocation efficiency." "PowerPoint presentations?" Sarah looked horrified. "Isn't that a violation of human rights or something?" "Actually, the Imperial Court sat through all of them," Jenkins reported. "All 47 hours. The Emperor was apparently quite impressed by the statistical analysis sections." "The Emperor sat through 47 hours of PowerPoint presentations?" "Oh yes," Linda beamed. "He's enrolled in our online statistics course now. Says he wants to better understand p-values so he can make more informed policy decisions." Sarah buried her face in her hands. "So, instead of going to war with us, they're having an internal scientific revolution. Their Emperor is studying statistics, and their military leaders are more concerned with gardening and quantum physics than actual military matters. Don't forget the interpretive dance. They say it helps visualize multi-dimensional calculations. The former ambassador's review of their latest performance got more viewers than the original war declaration. Their tentacles do add a certain artistic flair to the wave function demonstrations. Linda mused. Sarah took another long sip of tea. Please tell me this isn't going to spread to other species. Jenkins and Linda exchanged glances. Well, Jenkins began cautiously. The Andromeda Confederation has expressed interest in our unique approach to cultural transformation. They're particularly intrigued by the concept of settling diplomatic disputes through competitive research grants. And the Orion League has requested information about our university system, Linda added. Apparently, the idea of combining scientific research with interpretive dance really resonated with their philosophy of unified knowledge expression. The galaxy is going to become one giant research institute, isn't it? Sarah asked resignedly. Look on the bright side, Linda offered. It's hard to have interstellar wars when everyone's too busy writing grant proposals and practicing their quantum physics dance moves. Speaking of which, Jenkins interjected, the Zek-X-Thriaxian Science Coalition has officially requested Earth's help in transitioning their War Council chambers into a combination research facility and performing arts center. They're calling it the Institute for Militant Scientific Progress and Interpretive Theory Expression. Sarah stared at him. Please, tell me you're joking. Not at all. General Zekthor is very excited about it. He's already planning to combine his quantum mechanics lectures with demonstrations of his award-winning flower arrangements. Says it helps illustrate particle symmetry. And the former ambassador? Working on a documentary series. How Earth turned our war machine into a science machine, a tentacled perspective. Early reviews are quite positive. Sarah looked between her cousin's gleaming face and Jenkins's barely suppressed grin. You're both enjoying this way too much. Of course we are, Linda exclaimed. We've achieved what no civilization in history has managed. We've made science cooler than war. Do you know what the most popular toy is among Zek-Thriaxian children now? A miniature laboratory set with a built-in research proposal generator. Their version of playing soldiers is now playing scientists, Jenkins added, complete with tiny lab coats and peer review committees. Sarah couldn't help but laugh. I suppose this is better than the alternative, though I have to ask, what are we going to do about their official request to declare war on scientific stagnation? Linda's eyes twinkled. Well, we could always offer to help them redirect their military strategy skills toward aggressive funding acquisition. I hear the general is already working on tactical approaches to grant writing. He's called it Operation Endless Discovery, Jenkins confirmed. The battle plans involve systematic literature reviews and strategic collaboration networks. Sarah shook her head, smiling despite herself. Only humans could turn a potential interstellar war into a galaxy-wide scientific renaissance complete with interpretive dance and gardening competitions. That's our superpower, Linda said proudly. We don't just think outside the box. We transform the box into a laboratory, then convince everyone that research is more exciting than warfare. And somehow, Sarah mused, that makes us the most terrifying species in the galaxy. Not because of our weapons or our technology, but because we can make quantum physics look cool and convince hardened military leaders to trade their warships for lab coats and garden trowels, Jenkins finished. Exactly. Sarah raised her teacup in a toast. To humanity's greatest victory yet, making science the next big thing in interstellar culture. Though perhaps, Linda added with a wink, we should warn the galaxy about PowerPoint presentations. There are some weapons too terrible even for peaceful revolutions. As they laughed, somewhere in the vast expanse of space, thousands of former warriors were eagerly preparing their research proposals, practicing their equation dances, and discovering that the thrill of scientific discovery far outweighed the glory of war. And if that wasn't a uniquely human victory, nothing was. They've done it again, haven't they? Admiral Sarah Chen didn't even look up from her paperwork as Jenkins burst into her office. Ma'am, you're going to want to see this. Jenkins was practically vibrating with barely contained amusement. The Zek-Thriaxians have just submitted their first application to join the United Earth Federation. Well, that's not too surprising. As a university. Sarah's head snapped up. I'm sorry, what? The entire empire. Jenkins could no longer contain his grin. They want to reorganize their entire civilization as an academic institution. They're calling it the Zek-Thriaxian Universal University of Applied Everything. Everything. Sarah's voice cracked. Everything, Jenkins confirmed, pulling up the holographic application. Their proposal includes converting their planetary defense systems into astronomical research arrays, transforming their military academies into liberal arts colleges and... He squinted at the text. Establishing a Department of Interpretive Quantum Choreography and Militant Horticulture. Sarah reached for her emergency tea stash. Linda's behind this somehow, isn't she? Actually, a cheerful voice called out as Dr. Linda Chen's hologram materialized in the office. I had nothing to do with it this time, though I have to admit their organizational structure is brilliant. Did you see the part about the tenure-track positions for former war ministers? Linda, you can't turn an entire civilization into a university. Tell that to the Zexithriaxians, Linda shrugged. They've already started issuing student IDs to their entire population. The Chancellor Emeritus, has enrolled in a PhD program in comparative peaceful governance. Jenkins pulled up another document. According to their proposal, they plan to fund the entire operation through a combination of research grants, patent royalties from their quantum slip drive contributions, and... He paused, double-checking the text. Revenue from General Zakthor's incredibly successful quantum gardening book series and associated merchandise line. The plushy quantum particle garden gnomes are particularly popular, Linda added helpfully. They come with little lab coats and tiny trowels. Sarah took a long sip of tea. Please tell me this isn't causing a diplomatic incident. Oh, quite the opposite, Jenkins said. 3 other species have already inquired about their own civilization to university conversion processes. The Andromeda Confederation is particularly interested in their whole society academic transformation model. The galaxy is becoming one giant campus, Sarah muttered. It's actually quite elegant when you think about it, Linda mused. They've managed to maintain their entire governmental structure, just with an academic twist. Their military budget is now their research budget. Their war council is a board of regents, and their intelligence services have been repurposed as the galaxy's most thorough peer review system. The former ambassador is teaching a graduate seminar on the art of diplomatic content creation, a multi-tentacled approach to interstellar communication, Jenkins added. It's already oversubscribed for the next 3 semesters. Sarah massaged her temples. And what exactly do they expect Earth to do about all this? Well, Linda's grin turned mischievous. They're hoping we'll serve as their accrediting institution, sort of a galactic Ivy League mentor program. They want Earth to accredit an entire alien civilization? Think of it as a very, very large satellite campus, Linda suggested. With tentacles. Jenkins cleared his throat. There is one small complication, ma'am. Only one? Sarah asked dryly. Their enthusiasm for academic transformation has led to some unique interpretations of traditional academic practices. They've started settling departmental disputes through what they call rigorous academic combat. Do I want to know? It's actually quite civilized, Linda assured her. Competing research teams present their arguments through a combination of peer-reviewed papers, interpretive dance, and quantum-enhanced garden design. The winners get additional funding and their choice of office plants. The losers have to attend mandatory PowerPoint training sessions, Jenkins added. Sarah winced. That seems harsh. It's been remarkably effective at maintaining academic discipline, Linda noted. Nobody wants to sit through Advanced Slide Transition Techniques 101. But here's the real issue, Jenkins continued. Their approach to academic hierarchy is spreading. The Orion League has already adapted their model of combat citation metrics, where administrative positions are assigned based on publication impact factors and successful grant acquisitions. The galaxy is becoming academically militarized, Sarah realized with horror. More like militarily academicized, Linda corrected. Last week, the Andromeda Confederation resolved a border dispute through a joint research project on spatial topology. Both sides got published in Nature Xenoscience. And the former ZX-3-Axian warfleet? Converted into mobile research stations, Jenkins reported. They're calling it the Flotilla of Floating Faculties. Each ship specializes in a different field of study. The flagship is now the USS Peer Review. It houses their main library and central computing facilities. Don't forget the garden deck, Linda added. General Zikathor insisted every vessel maintain at least one hydroponic section for quantum botanical stress relief. Sarah leaned back in her chair. So let me make sure I understand this correctly. The civilization that tried to go to war with us less than a year ago now wants to become an officially accredited university system, has converted their entire military into an academic institution, and is spreading this model across the galaxy? while maintaining the most aggressive research and development program in known space. Linda nodded. Did you know they've already submitted more patent applications this month than their entire empire filed in the previous century? Their new motto is, Scientia Potentior Armis, knowledge more powerful than weapons, Jenkins said, though they insist on singing it in 4-part harmony while performing interpretive quantum physics demonstrations. The tentacles really add something to the wave function visualizations, Linda mused. Sarah looked between them. And we're just okay with this? Well, Linda grinned. It's either this or they go back to pretending to be a military power. Personally, I prefer them channeling their aggressive tendencies into competitive grant writing and interdepartmental research rivalries. Besides, Jenkins added, their quantum slip drive research team just had a major breakthrough. Apparently, combining their theoretical knowledge with Earth's engineering capabilities and their new interpretive physics approach yielded unexpected insights. Interpretive physics? You'd be surprised how helpful it is to dance out quantum equations, Linda said. Something about the tentacle movements really helps visualize multidimensional probability spaces. Sarah sighed deeply. Fine, but someone has to tell them that not every scientific paper needs a choreographed dance number and a garden design component. Linda and Jenkins exchanged glances. About that, Linda began. Don't tell me. Their latest submission to the Galactic Science Academy was a combination research paper, interpretive dance performance, and quantum synchronized garden show, Jenkins reported. It won Best in Show in 3 categories and is being adapted into a HoloVision series. The galaxy's gone mad, Sarah declared. No, Linda corrected with a smile. It's gone academic. And isn't that so much better than going to war? Sarah couldn't help but laugh. I suppose when you put it that way. Though I have to ask, what happens if another species actually tries to start a real war now? Oh, that's the best part, Jenkins grinned. The Zex-3 Axions have developed what they call aggressive academic deterrence. Any hostile action is met with an immediate barrage of research proposals, grant applications, and mandatory attendance at their full seminar series. Including the PowerPoint sessions, Linda added with a wink. That's actually terrifying, Sarah admitted. Exactly. No one wants to risk having to sit through a 47-hour presentation on proper citation methodologies in multidimensional research contexts, with tentacle-enhanced visual aids. As Sarah processed this, she couldn't help but marvel at the strange turn of events. Somehow, humanity had managed to transform a potential interstellar war into a galaxy-wide academic revolution, complete with interpretive dance, quantum gardening, and the most terrifying weapon of all, mandatory PowerPoint training. You know what the really funny part is? She said finally. This might be the most effective peacekeeping strategy in human history. Peace through aggressive education, Linda agreed. Though we should probably start preparing for the inevitable. What's that? Galaxy-wide freshman orientation. Linda's eyes twinkled. Just wait until they discover the concept of spring break. As they all laughed, somewhere in the vast expanse of space, thousands of former warriors were eagerly preparing their research presentations, practicing their equation dances, and tending their quantum gardens, proving once again that the pen, or in this case the lab coat, was indeed mightier than the sword, especially when accompanied by interpretive tentacle dance and the threat of mandatory PowerPoint training. The end.